All right. Welcome to the 2025 DOE Boost Showcase. Thank you to everyone joining us in person and virtually. I'm Manuel Mogus. I'm going to be your host today, and I'm excited to be here. Since the start of this cohort, I've had the chance to witness as our teams will be hearing from work to turn early-stage lab innovations into real ventures. It's been exciting to see their progress as they move from idea to refined pitch. This showcase is the result of months of hard work from our entrepreneurs, the labs, and the wider startup ecosystem. I'd like to quickly take a step back and walk us through how we got to this point. Earlier this year, our team went out searching for technologies from DOE labs that aligned with community challenges that had been identified, but also had the potential to be developed by startups. We then sourced entrepreneurs you'll be hearing from today, and aspiring entrepreneurs from communities across the United States, matching them to these technologies based on their interests and backgrounds. During the program, teams spent hundreds of hours conducting customer discovery interviews, doing deep dives into the technologies, collaborating with the labs, performing market research, and identifying real-world use cases. This showcase is just the beginning for our teams, and we're glad that you're all here today to help propel them into their next chapter. As far as how the next few hours will go, over the next 30 minutes, we'll have opening and welcome remarks. We'll then have our first set of teams open up. We'll have a quick 5-minute break, after which we'll reconvene at about 6:20 to hear from our second set of teams. Following that, we'll give the judges an opportunity to deliberate, at which point we'll be hearing from 2 spin-out companies, Parawatt Energy and Loop Chemicals. Once the judges have an idea of our 3 winners, we'll return back here to announce winners, and we ask you to stay for refreshments. If you'd like to look at our virtual event guide to understand more about the teams, please go ahead and scan the QR code, and for those of you joining us virtually, you can download it from the chat. With that, to help set the stage for tonight, I'd like to welcome Ben Solomon, founder and CEO of FedTech.
Thank you. Well, thanks to everybody for being here. Big night, big moment to be finishing this phase of the entrepreneur's journey. As Emmanuel mentioned, so I'm Ben, I'm the founder and CEO of FedTech. Just a little bit about us. So we're a venture accelerator and creator based out of Washington, but really proud to have a New Mexico presence as well. We have, in the last 10 years, worked with about 1,000 companies that have gone on to raise over $5 billion. Actually, and we ran our numbers we've worked with DOE as a partner for the last 8 years, and have had close to 50 spinoffs from DOE labs come through. So this is one of our absolute favorite things that we get to do. The New Mexican ecosystem and the venture community out here is just so special, and to be able to do an event tonight is just makes us very happy. So want to send a thanks just to Sandia, and has been an amazing partner for many years now. Thanks so much to OTC for supporting this program, Director Puglisi. We'll hear from shortly. And I just want to foot stomp a little bit how hard the program is for our entrepreneurs and how much they really achieve. So again, we take technologies, we start with thousands of inventions. We have a team that sorts through those and ranks them. We start with great people. We pull together, amazing entrepreneurs from different backgrounds. We bring the two together, and our entrepreneurs literally have to learn about a new technology very, very quickly. They have to start to learn to work with each other too, right? We're introducing founders from the ground up, that have never met in a lot of cases. And then going out and actually starting to we're very much rooted in the idea of customer discovery. So get out there and interview customers, understand the market. And so you're doing that as entrepreneurs with a technology that you're still learning about. And like that process is immensely challenging, but when it starts to go well and you start to see a market opportunity, there's nothing better. So we're going to have, out of tonight's companies, many that are going to be starting a new phase of the journey. And I just wanted to offer a couple of pieces of advice. So the first is for our entrepreneurs, you got to move fast, right? So we've given you a lot of structure in the last several months. In some ways, entrepreneurship is a race against time, in my opinion, where like you got to create your own structure, you got to create milestones. You'll see like FedTech is always here for you, but there'll be a little less structure. So definitely be aggressive, never decline a meeting, never decline a chance to put in a proposal, right? Be bold. Second piece of advice is really cherish the lab relationship that you've developed. It's such a unique thing to start a company in partnership with a national lab. You have resources from the lab, from the inventor. We see so many cases where that relationship is just such a crucial part of not only the creation of the company, but the continued growth. So lean into that. Your labs have so much more to offer you as you go through your journey. And then the last piece of advice is just recognize this is a special time in your life where you're starting something brand new. You're going to see every phase of building a company is unique and wonderful, but there's something very, very, very special about the pressures, the wins, the highs, the lows of this early stage. I remember it well for FedTech, and every couple of years it's a different phase that you enter. So love this one, enjoy the moment, and I want to introduce Mary Monson, who has been a champion of this program and is really a legend at Sandia. So Mary has some remarks for.
Thanks, Ben. Good evening, everyone. It's so exciting to see this space full of enthusiastic people. I'm, as Ben said, I'm Mary Monson. I'm the Senior Manager for Technology Partnerships and Business Development at Sandia. It's an honor to be here tonight as we celebrate these technologies and the innovation that Boost embodies. I want to start out with a heartfelt thank you to the Department of Energy's Office of Technology Commercialization for their vision and support through Boost's first iteration and now into our second. I'd like to also thank our partners at FedTech, Ben and team, and the entrepreneurs, coaches, and mentors driving Boost's mission forward. I also want to acknowledge our community partners across New Mexico and the Mountain West region. This year we engaged 5 states, Colorado, Montana, Nevada, New Mexico, and Utah. The insights from those regional partners have shaped the selection of technologies you'll see tonight, and the continued support of those communities has made the Boost Startup Studio stronger. And of course, thank you to our partner labs for identifying and championing the transformative technologies that form the backbone of this cohort. As we step into the golden era of American energy dominance, the trillion-dollar question is, how do we activate the private sector, leverage federal resources, and unite around goals to promote energy abundance and technology innovation? The answer starts here with the extraordinary people in this room. You are the catalysts, pioneering innovative solutions and shaping the future. The DOE Boost platform, as I said, is funded by the Office of Technology Commercialization through the Technology Commercialization Fund. And I'm having trouble with all the props here on this little platform, so give me a minute. It really, the program, the TCF program, exemplifies the DOE's commitment to strengthening our energy systems and securing critical resources and creating a more resilient nation. Energy, national security, and also economic resilience. Through programs like this, we're not just innovating, we're building stronger local, regional, and national economies. These efforts foster meaningful partnerships with industry and academia, and they are addressing real-world challenges. With that, I want to introduce our featured speaker, Mr. Anthony Pugliese. Anthony was appointed by President Trump, and since March 2025 has served as both DOE's Chief Commercialization Officer and the Director of the Office of Technology Commercialization. He's held senior leadership roles across federal and state government, including Chief of Staff at the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission and as the Senior White House Advisor for Transportation. Before joining DOE, he also worked in the private sector, helping businesses navigate regulatory landscapes tied to energy, infrastructure, and national security. And we're very fortunate that he brings that broad and diverse perspective to DOE's efforts to turn innovative technologies into real-world solutions. So with that, I would like to invite Anthony to the stage, to the podium.
Thank you, Mary, for the kind introduction. It's really wonderful to be here, and I want to thank Q Station for hosting us today, and our fantastic partners, FedTech and Sandia. My office brings the money to the table via the TCF, as was said, and my team is outstanding. I want to acknowledge, some of them here. I know Marcos is here, Frank, Victor, and my Chief of Staff, Justin, and I also want to acknowledge we're really lucky to have a special guest and Sam Fidel, who's the White House liaison for the U.S. Department of Energy. So thank you for being here with us, Sam. But FedTech and Sandia really are the power behind Boost. In less than 3 years, with frankly modest resources, they've shaped Boost into a very productive commercialization pipeline. Really, it's more than a pipeline. They're helping creative people who want to plunge into the often high-risk business of bringing cutting-edge tech into our daily lives. Develop the skill set and knowledge they need to achieve success. Knowledge and skills are fundamental and enduring. It's the old adage about giving a person a fish or teaching that person to fish on their own. Knowledge and skills are also shareable. That means Boost is launching the people who join the program and setting them up to help launch others. It's a two-tiered, that's what the investment is all about. And so I want to just tell you a little bit about our office. We had a lot of changes over the last year. So we used to be the Office of Technology Transitions, and frankly, we changed the office to the Office of Technology Commercialization because a couple things. One, I think it helped shorten the elevator speech of what we do. We are trying to commercialize technology. We're trying to actually deploy technology into the real world. It's amazing that we spend billions of dollars trying to develop this technology in the labs and in the DOE complex, but if it never sees the light of day, then that's not really helping the taxpayers who are putting that investment into all of this technology innovation. And so really very excited to have this role. We have also decided to consolidate the SBIR, STTR program into my office. Frankly, at DOE, it's been an underutilized program, to be nice. There was about 8 other offices that were playing a part. It was confusing for applicants. There was very little interaction with DOE for the awardees. And so we're trying to be cognizant of, okay, how can we be a better partner with you? And so in the past, sometimes the application was anywhere from 75, 80 to over 100 pages. For a small business or startup, doesn't incentivize you to come work with us. And frankly, you were, in some cases, spending about $80 million to go after $300 million. And it was a 0.9% success rate of actually getting that SBIR. So we are trying to change the game. We're trying to make the application more efficient. We're going to try to do a little bit of like the DOW and our partners who, especially the Army and whatnot, who really kind of have like a 5-page pitch deck, 4 pages of supporting documents, which make it easy to apply, easy for us to kind of consider whether this is the kind of technology we want to move forward or not, and try to make it just a overall better program. We're also going to really change things up, and so it will be one application to go from phase 1 to phase 2 instead of having to reapply for phase 2. We think that alone will probably save the applicants around $45,000 on average. So we're really excited to try to identify how we can be a better partner, how we can better work with our labs, better work with you all in this room. Some breaking news for us, we're excited. We're also consolidating the lab embedded entrepreneurship program into my office. And again, the theory here is really simple. We want to have one cohesive strategy moving forward. We don't want to have various offices with various other missions, all kind of doing sporadic programs that don't necessarily aren't tied together in a strategic manner. So as we move forward, we really want to work with you. We are excited about the opportunity. We thank you for everything that you're doing. And please consider us a partner with the labs and FedTech and others. We really want to see you succeed. And our resources are here for you. And again, thank you so much for what you're doing. We are excited to hear the pitch and look forward to working with you moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben, Mary, and Director Pugliese for your remarks and for being here with us today. Before we transition into the pitch portion of this evening, I have a few brief notes and acknowledgments. I'd first like to ask for a warm round of applause for our entrepreneurs, the inventors, tech transfer specialists, and other ecosystem partners. I'd also like to offer a huge thank you to the Office of Technology Commercialization for supporting our program. Thank you. Tonight, 8 startups are competing for a $100,000 prize pool, from which we will select 3 winners. Our 3 judges this evening are the ones helping us make the determination of which 3 will take the funding home. Our judges are Brian Schmidley, Head of New Business at Siemens, Nora Meyer-Sackett, Director of the Technology and Innovation Office of the New Mexico Economic Development Department, and Travis Kellerman, Senior Energy Policy Advisor at the Energy, Minerals, and Natural Resource Department of New Mexico. Thank you for being here with us. Before I go, let me quickly remind you of tonight's format. We're going to have 8 teams offering 6-minute pitches, followed by 4 minutes of Q&A from our judges. To our audience, we ask that you keep your questions to our break or the networking session at the end. Our teams will be judged in 4 aspects, with product market fit being the most significant one. With that, let's get started. I'd like to welcome to the stage Canary Instrument, Aldo and Walter.
This mic also works? Yes, but we only use one? Just use one. Can we put this over here? We'll just do put this over elsewhere. Good space. Great.
Ready? Let's do this. Good evening. We are Canary Instruments, and we are here tonight to tackle the nuclear energy industry's Achilles heel, the trust gap. In 1979, the 3 Mile Island nuclear reactor meltdown wasn't just an equipment failure. It was a national crisis of confidence in nuclear power because the public was kept in the dark about the radiation leakage for far too long. And that attitude hasn't changed. 2 years ago, 900,000 gallons of contaminated water leaked at a nuclear plant in Monticello, Minnesota, laced with tritium, a highly elusive and radioactive substance that can lead to cancer. And to this day, the company is still discovering tritium because they do not have the technology to continuously monitor it. Just look at the public reaction online. We've talked to over 70 nuclear energy industry professionals, from former members of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission to frontline plant workers at the Tennessee Valley Authority, to Senate staffers on both sides of the aisle, to health physicists working at nonprofits and within industry. We've done some hard work, and the message has been clear. The gap in trust regarding radiation safety between the public and the industry is a major bottleneck for the growth of the entire nuclear energy industry. As a Department of Energy official told us, nuclear safety is a feeling more than a statistic. And right now, the industry is failing to validate that feeling because it lacks the technology to monitor safety in real time. Fission has been fighting this for decades. And right now, fusion executives are staring down the barrel of a similar fate. Despite their differences, the majority of fusion companies will need to handle significant amounts of tritium. Both need to build trust through transparency and accountability, or fission will stagnate and fusion will die on the vine. Canary Instruments is here to solve the trust gap.
Currently, both fission and fusion rely on a form of grab sampling called liquid scintillation counting, taking a sample, sending it to a lab, and waiting days to weeks for results. That's not safety, That's an autopsy. This decades-old technology leaves communities incredibly exposed. Would you trust your water downstream from a nuclear plant if it hadn't been tested for weeks? At Canary Instruments, we are directly addressing this. With our solid scintillant technology, we unlock continuous radiation monitoring with immediate results for even the hardest to detect radioisotopes like tritium. No labs, no waiting, no doubts. This presents a unique opportunity. The radiation detection market is valued at $3.6 billion, with liquid scintillation counting making up $1.2 billion of that. As the only technology capable of real-time water-based monitoring, we expect to transform the market and become the benchmark for safety-critical detection. But this is just the starting point. A single fusion power plant will contain quantities of radioactive tritium 10,000 times that of fission. And the fusion industry knows they must get a handle on monitoring it, or else there won't be a fusion future. And since we are the only ones who can monitor it continuously, we are uniquely positioned to enable the industry's rise. We see a $500 million opportunity by de-risking the industry and establishing ourselves as the standard for tritium accountancy. By integrating early with this nascent $9 billion industry, we are at the right place at the right time. To capitalize on these two market opportunities, we intend to start with a service-based model, which is tailored toward the nuclear communities with radiation risks today. They want to know their water is safe. Our work here will then enable us to meet the fusion industry's need through direct sales as they expand. As first movers with high defensibility and significant gross margins, we expect to be profitable soon after our launch.
So why are we the ones to build this? My co-founder, Walter Shu, brings over a decade of experience in building startup ideas into commercial products. He has mastered every stage of the development cycle and has the expertise to bring this technology to market. And I'm Adil Ahmed. I'm a corporate and regulatory attorney. I've worked for the United States Army and with federal hazmat investigators. My background has been in the field. I've spent time on the ground with communities in New Mexico concerned about exposure to uranium and communities in Michigan concerned about the transportation of nuclear waste. I've quite literally looked into the eyes of those who are the most affected. And together, Walter and I have developed a dynamic relationship with our inventors at Jefferson Lab. I want to shout out the folks at JLab who are watching online, as well as our inventor Jack McKisson and David Perkins, who are here tonight to root us on.
This isn't just a future vision. This is a roadmap, and we've already started down the path. Just this past Tuesday, Jefferson Lab's Innovation Review Board approved our joint disclosure for securing new intellectual property covering fusion applications we've discovered over the past few months. This puts us on track to file a joint provisional patent by the end of this year. Second, we have already started the process on a cooperative research and development agreement, a CRADA, to rigorously prove out the technology. We are already making strides. In fact, I have here with me the test cell that will be used for our first phase of experiments. By early next year, we will have applied to several non-dilutive funding opportunities to support our development. We've already identified 3 which we are uniquely competitive for. One from RPE, one for a fusion development program called Infuse, and a third is a niche defense program called SERDP. We are working with key individuals connected to these programs to solidify our case. Additionally, we are in the midst of establishing several real-world public-private partnerships by the end of next year. We are actively talking to Savannah River National Lab, who brings over 70-plus years of tritium management expertise in the areas of fusion and environmental safety, as well as Wayne County in Michigan about partnerships to address real radiation problems that they have today. By mid-2027, we aim to deliver our first commercial paid pilot with our fusion partners. This isn't just a placeholder. We are actively forming these relationships and have already engaged with a number of the key industry leaders, key among which are Commonwealth Fusion Systems and your future neighbor in Albuquerque, Pacific Fusion. Together, with over $4 billion in investment, they are leaders of their pack, and their message to us has been clear. They want our product, and they would buy it today.
We have 2 asks for you tonight. First is with prototyping. We will use any prize funding that we are awarded to build and validate iterations of our product. And we're looking for follow-on funding to complete the first 2 phases of development. Second, we're looking for introductions to potential pilot opportunities. We're actively negotiating with Commonwealth Fusion Systems, Pacific Fusion, and Wayne County, Michigan, but we're looking for more so that we can find optimal partners to build this business. With your support, we can start to bridge the gap between the fear of the past and the promise of the future. Let's build the future of nuclear energy safety together. Thank you.
Oh, questions?
There we go. Thank you, guys. I want to clarify your customer because I hear a lot about potential partnerships with regulatory bodies or a government or the private sector in fusion. So would the customer be a fusion energy producer like Pacific to monitor their activity, or would the customer be in New Mexico the regulatory body that regulates what Pacific Fusion is doing and ensures that they stay within regulations? Or combination of both, but you tell me.
I would say it's a combination of all of the above. So the ideal partner or beachhead target has been the fusion industry. They are building pilots today, and they have a need for this technology, and they would use it today. And admittedly, they're in pilot stage. We want to be there so that way our systems are integrated, so that way when they do scale up and are making hundreds of these plants, we'll be there with them. Now, part of our roadmap is also establishing the sensor as a reliable detector. It's a safety-based. And so part of our roadmap is establishing partnerships to validate the capability of our sensor, which we will then also use to protect kind of communities that are near nuclear sites and waste dumps, essentially. Thank you.
Thank you.
Has there been any resistance from your customer discovery, private companies, the fusion companies you listed, with having what could be, as Norm mentioned, a product that is essentially a compliance mechanism for a state or federal government as opposed to their own process where they report? And then connected to that, have you done cost comparison on that process versus what you imagine your total cost would be for similar data?
Well, the current process is time-intensive and very labor-intensive. We received affirmation from folks in Fusion pretty unanimously that this will speed up their processes right now, thus saving them time. Currently, they're really not at the point where they're thinking about these monitors within their systems, but they know they need to, which is why we've gotten such adamant yeses when they've literally asked us, is this product ready for us now? And so to answer your question, the resistance we've gotten has been from the established fission industry that has been operating for decades the way they have been. There's no doubt that they realize that this is an issue and that they need to fix it. When we received several no's from the industry, we actually pivoted to government. And the governments very much realize that this is something that they need in order to enforce the standards and then to ensure compliance for the facilities in their districts. And maybe to answer your question a little further, Travis, we have a letter of support from a foundation called C10 in New Hampshire. And they represent about 180,000 residents in New Hampshire. And what they literally told us was, if this product was implemented at this nuclear facility in our neighborhood, the public would support the expansion of that neighborhood. So thinking about how much they have to gain from the amount they have to spend.
Okay, we only have 30 seconds, so briefly, you said you've talked to a couple of customers. They want the service. They're willing to pay for it. Can you walk me through in a little bit more detail your pricing model, or give me an idea? Yeah, the duration of contracts. It's a monitoring as a service style business model, correct?
Yeah, so as a kind of midterm business model, it would be a contract. The problem that we're solving are essentially for the communities that are worried about their water safety. And so they're not interested in having this sensor that gives them all sorts of data. They're just interested in to know, is there radioactivity in our water? And so that is kind of the value add there. The business model is basically sized on the amount of cost it already takes their existing departments to evaluate the water. So the technicians' labor time sending it to a liquid scintillation lab, plus the value add that comes with a continuous monitor as opposed to, periodic. Good. Okay.
Up next, I'd like to welcome up Nathan and Kamel from ConnectiSync.
Hello, my name is Kamel Green, founder and CEO of ConnectiSync. I was always told that in order to be ready, you have to stay ready. And this was even more apparent during my time of working for the National Nuclear Security Administration out in Los Alamos, New Mexico. Safeguards and security and protecting our critical infrastructure is not simply a nice to have, it's a necessity. This became even more apparent when operating in dangerous areas. One thing that we've been able to realize is that as the world continues to evolve, technology continues to advance. And as technology continues to advance, threats continue to advance as well. We must not fall behind on that. Right now, the United States is investing billions of dollars into critical assets, such as interceptor missiles, as well as autonomous defense platforms. Many may call this the Golden Dome. However, the reality is that building out a national defense shield that can sense and detect solutions can be problematic when we have problems at bay. We know that through these investments, it became real that the solutions that's needed is going to lead into some of the things that we're doing here at KinetiSync. Right now, some of the problems that we found is that sensor systems are overwhelmed. Legacy interconnects are simply outdated, and failures are way too costly and sometimes can cost us the loss of life. These current investments from the United States has shown a clear message. We need a solution that can sense and detect real-time invasion and what could potentially be happening. We've also seen that a recent study has put out that around 70% of IoT sensor data goes unused. This means we're simply vulnerable and we are not seeing what's out there. This is the solution to KinetiSync. Here at KinetiSync, we're building a dual-use compute architecture layer that transforms raw sensor overload into real-time, actionable intelligence.
I would like you all to think about the human body for a second. We have eyes, ears, and a nose, all taking in information to help us make sense of the world around us. Now, imagine if your blink took 2 seconds long, or if you hear something a second after that sound is made. How do you expect to be navigating in this world, let alone drive a car or fly through space? Digital sensing systems suffer these same exact problems. Say you have all of these sensors. They're all generating data, some more frequently than others, some maybe even at the exact same time. KinetiSync is the foundational backbone for sensing systems. We use a patented process to take all of the sensor data coming in, detangle it, and speed track down to that downstream for processing. This enables low power, efficient, timely decision making.
So now that you all understand the problem and you understand the solution, here are the domains and verticals in which we're operating in. First, we're a dual-use solution, meaning we are selling both to the public and private sectors. Our main specific focus right now is space and defense and autonomous vehicles as well as robotics.
KinetiSync is not only the technical backbone, it is a connector for market ecosystems. Our total addressable market of $600 billion composes of sensor and processor developers in both the public and private sectors. We've identified aerospace and defense as our beachhead market, so they will be our service addressable market. And because we're talking about aerospace and defense, national security is of course of concern, so we'll primarily be focused on the US and allied nations.
Right now, KinetiSync is poised to secure potential customers here in the near future. We are a full-time operational incorporated company, and we've made significant progress. We spoke to over 50 customers, and we've seen an 85 positive yields, meaning when we spoke to potential customers, they said, if this works, this is something that we'll purchase. Right now, we've developed a partnership with the Homeland Security Innovation Hub. We've signed 2 letters of intents with 2 venture-backed companies. We also have a pending option license with Brookhaven National Laboratory. We have 1 signed letter of support. We're actively working on a sitter with Brookhaven National Laboratory right now. So the next question that many would ask is, well, how do you make money? Well, through my experience of selling to the government, as well as building out this unique solution, there's 2 things that we're focused on. We want to scale, but we also want to establish a first mover advantage in the market. How we do that is we disrupt this red tape, long, exhaustive sales cycle within the government, which makes it difficult for a lot of these companies to raise capital as well. How we do that is we expedite the sales cycle by not selling the product outright. Instead, what we're doing is we're selling it as a platform, as a service. So the benefit to that is we don't have to wait and sit back for government entities to have to wait in years before allocate funds for these lump sums. Instead, what we do is we come in with a low implementation cost and then a model based off multi-annual contracts.
In the near term, we're looking to secure non-dilutive funding to advance our technology readiness level. We're also looking to conclude conversations with our lab partners so that we can start co-development on the core KinetiSync technology. Also, because we are dual use application, we will simultaneously be rolling out our sales and relationships pipeline in the private sector with the hope of securing some pilots. In the middle of next year, we're looking to start a fundraise to support our research and development and business development efforts. And by the end of the year, we're hoping to file some provisional patents for layers of our KinetiSync stack. Our team composes of Brandon, myself, and Kamel. Brandon comes from the Air Force and has helped his clients win a net total of $25 million in grant funding with a 45% win rate. I am an electrical engineer and software engineer with a decade of experience in evaluating and working with cutting-edge technologies such as augmented virtual reality, computer vision and drones, blockchain, and artificial intelligence. Kamel is a two-time venture-backed founder with deep connections in the aerospace and defense industry, as well as extensive experience selling to public governments. On our advisory board, we have Phil Carmack, who has worked at NVIDIA and also Google, as well as Dave Beck, who is a former Space Force and a tech and VC founder. We're looking to talk with investors as we prepare for our fundraise next year. Additionally, we're looking for partners, so if you know anyone in the sensor or sensor fusion or edge compute space, please come talk to us or reach out.
KinetiSync is raising $1 million off a $7 million post-money valuation cap in Q2 of next year. If awarded this $50,000 today, we'll use that to extend our runway as well as secure licenses and provisional patents. KinetiSync will become the global nervous system of edge compute. Thank you all.
When you think about the extreme edge for IoT, I remember from a few years ago about 90+% of data being sent back was sent in plain text. There was no encryption that could run on low compute. How does your technology increase like an AES standard running on low compute sensors?
So the technology is primarily focused on all compute happening at the edge. So we're not looking at downstream communication to, say, Earth or base stations. So we'll have to explore that space more, but primarily we've been talking with people who are doing computation on the edge. We've noticed, New Mexico is a good space area, and in my conversation with some people here, there's a movement towards capabilities, not so much just doing things for a mission basis. So that's why we've been focusing entirely on things deployed happening out in space as opposed to bringing things back.
So encryption and compute happen at the point of capture?
Correct. Yeah, out at the edge.
I've got a quick question. So I actually have a little bit of experience trying to launch a PaaS business model as well with energy and IoT and edge devices. And the problem that I ran into is when we started to approach our, what would be an intermediate step to an end customer with the PaaS model, we got into very quickly commoditization style conversations. Where if you could, so I guess the question is, if you open up this model and you attract competition with a PaaS business model, how do you avoid that? How do you avoid getting commoditized and competing on price and seeing your margins collapse?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is not holding variables constant and recognizing that how technology is distributed has evolved. One of the big things for us is what we're going to leverage is first mover advantage. When it comes to the competition layer, though, is we're going to be integrated in that layer itself. So, for example, an interrogator for a LiDAR sensor or for a fiber optic sensor, we're working with Sensoron on their sensor. So they're not necessarily competing with us as they continue to scale their purchasing for us because we're integrated at the earlier stage of that layer.
Can you talk a little bit more about competitors in this space? I know you talked about some discovery with potential customers saying, you're 85X, but what specific pain points with potential competitors or similar companies in the same field does this overcome?
Yeah, so there are protocols out there and data protocols that try and define the standards. The key technology that we're working with in the patent, the hard part is specifically arbitration. So how do you know what gets access first? Also, there's a synchronization that has to happen. And the patent that we're working with that we intend to extend on does away with the clock, and it does away with the arbitration. So the competitors have something that works, but this is basically de novo. It's new. It's very different from the competitors. So there are competitors, quote unquote, but because it's so different, there's no direct competition so far.
Yeah. So in short, there's not direct competition because we're doing something that's ahead of what the traditional technology is.
You talked about working around the government sales cycle, the long lead times and close times. Does your technology and your platform, does that subscription create more compliance issues for contractors that have to deal with the federal government? Is it just sort of pushing it towards them, whereas you would have to render that compliance?
It depends. It depends on the type of sale and who we're selling to. If we're selling, because we're dual use, if we're selling directly to government, there's different layers that you'll have to go into it. If you're selling to the private sector, there's other compliance regulation that you have to go with that. To us, and based off my background, it really expedites it. What we do, as opposed to kind of building in-house like cybersecurity layers and things like that, we would simply outsource to other entities that would help us expedite that process. One of the big things that we found ultimately to slowing things down in the Valley of Death is just simply the sales cycle. And so that's what we're addressing, and that's how we built that model in that way. Thank you.
Up next, I'd love to welcome Jason from Lattice Energy.
Which one is it? Right here. All right. Hello, Albuquerque. Quick show of hands. How many of us have experienced a power outage, long or short? Okay, pretty much everyone. Well, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, 1 in 4 households experience a power outage every year. In 2021, the Texas winter storm left 4.5 million customers without power, some for a week. In 2022, Hurricane Ian caused an outage to nearly a third of Florida, some for over 2 weeks. And this year, safety shutoffs due to wildfires in California affected over 500,000 customers, double from last year. Crazy, right? Well, what's crazier is that in August, NPR reported that consumer electricity prices are rising twice as fast as inflation. Well, today we have generators, solar, and home batteries. But these solutions are designed for homeowners with single-family homes, not renters or pretty much the rest of the population. Renters and condo owners often can't make permanent modifications to their homes. And these systems are expensive, costing upwards of $50,000 for a typical system, and involve time-consuming permitting, installation, and inspection procedures that often take 3 to 6 months to complete. There are 50 million renter-occupied units and owner-occupied units, condos, in the US alone, and they represent almost 40% of the total housing inventory. This is a massive, structurally excluded market. Hi, my name is Jason, and this is Lattice Energy, a modular solar and battery system that plugs right into any outlet. No permits, no electricians, no structural changes. Instead of spending $50,000 for a conventional system, anyone can start with just a few $1,000s. And when you move, you can take it with you. Our system is also expandable and stackable. Add more solar for more energy savings, or more batteries for longer backup. Each unit is connected to an advanced energy management software. When aggregated in a community level, we can support grid stability via virtual power plant functionality. At Lattice Energy, our goal is to make renewable energy more accessible and equitable. So how does Lattice Energy compare to other solutions? Well, today, financing can lower upfront costs, but it can't speed up permitting. Software tools can accelerate permit reviews, and hardware, like Tesla's backup switch, reduce installation time. But a customer said, Tesla finished the install and left a bag of parts for the utility to install, which was another 3 to 5 weeks. Lattice Energy is the only solution that reduces cost, eliminates permitting, while providing backup power. Our strategy is to target those structurally excluded and disaster-prone communities. Renter-occupied units and owner-occupied condos make up almost 40% of US's housing inventory. We will first target Florida, then expand to Texas, California, and Puerto Rico. By accounting for realistic income profiles, we see an obtainable market of $260 million just by selling our prepackaged systems. And once adoption reaches 100 units per community, we will expand vertically and offer grid stability support services to utilities. To do this, we plan to license mature technology from National Lab of the Rockies, and to drive adoption, we will leverage renters associations, partner with local governments and utilities, and participate in disaster preparedness and recovery events. So why are we the right team? Because we have the right track record. We've led energy tech startups, integrated off-grid energy sources for a 15 million zero-emissions yacht, and developed an energy optimization platform for the Department of Energy. Our advisors include a global utility consultant who has conducted value of solar and battery studies and testified before the Public Utility Commissions. We also have a veteran master electrician with 50 years of experience across residential, commercial, and industrial sectors. Also on our advisors is a New York law school. To date, we have incorporated a company, developed our own IP for the plug-and-play technology, received a positive patentability analysis report, and drafted a patent application. We have submitted 2 grant and fellowship applications and are actively developing a prototype. We're quickly progressing towards our next milestone. In 2026, we plan to validate our prototype with 5 pilot partners. In 2027, we will obtain UL product certification and release our MVP. We invite you to join our journey. We're looking for engineers and strategists, and especially wizard-level co-founders who want to bring this mission to life. We also welcome partnerships and introductions to local governments, utilities, housing developers, and hospitals. With the $50,000 prize, we will be able to achieve our next milestone and demonstrate our prototype next year. We plan to use a portion of the funds for specialized testing at Sandia National Lab's Distributed Energy Technology Lab, including surge and hardware-in-the-loop tests. And as part of our go-to-market strategy, we're currently in the selection process with Harvard's Business Consulting Club, where students compete to craft the strongest commercialization plan for Lattice Energy. Before we wrap up here, a quick thank you to our supporters, including FedTech. I'd like to share that the DOE has called our solution a breakthrough, and Oak Ridge National Labs said that unlike single-family houses, it's hard to convince building owners and tenants to pay for upgrades. And so Lattice Energy matches exactly this gap. Join our journey to make resilient energy more accessible and equitable. Thank you so much. And here's a QR code if you'd like to stay connected and updated. Thanks.
I didn't hear a clear comparison for what a typical load would be that you're serving. So what kind of power does it generate? How much can it store? What does that look like?
Yeah, so since our system can plug directly into a standard outlets, there are national electric codes that you can't exceed certain limitations. So our system is designed for that. So it outputs a maximum of 1,800 watts. And our battery size would start from 2.5 kilowatt hours.
So do you need the OEMs that manufacture this equipment to make any modifications to their current manufacturing and products? I mean, do the solar panel manufacturers have to modify anything? Do the battery manufacturers have to change anything? Or are you putting a box at each site and then connecting everything to the box, and the box gets plugged in? Can you tell me a little bit about the architecture and what modifications the OEMs have to make?
Yeah. So there are different ways to go about this business model. Definitely one way is that we can work with the OEMs and integrate it. But since this technology is proprietary, we would like to have control throughout the process. So that means we would take the panels and integrate it ourselves instead of giving our devices to the OEMs for integration. And so, yeah.
Does that void the warranty from the OEM?
No. It's designed to be complied with UL product certifications as well as the NEC. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about your discovery process? Who did you talk to? What kind of whomever?
Yeah.
I'm specifically including, I want to hear all of that, but I'm curious if there was insurance providers in that discovery process and how you think that would factor in.
Sure. That's a great idea. Can I ask what lens you're coming in from the insurance provider's view?
Sure. I work for state government, but I'm just curious. Oh, for insurance, I'm thinking, I was curious about the line that it said eliminated permitting.
Okay.
And so if this required no additional permitting or oversight,
Yep.
and it's plug and play,
Right.
and then, should there be an issue
Right.
with whatever, how insurance would look at there being an energy system
Yep.
that didn't obtain any other green light or thumbs up.
Yeah, and that's a great question and great concern. So our system, of course, the permitting process is with the county as well as the utility. Both of them need approvals. And actually, this diagram over here describes the timeline of a typical system. And so after you contract sign, you need to go through the permit process with the AHJ, which is the county, and then also go through the approval to build with the utility. But our system, we have a proprietary technology that complies with the National Electric Code as well as UL, so there's safety built in, while bypassing the need to go through the permitting process, because right now there's a lot of delays and it's expensive to get permits. So it's built in, and that's part of the proprietary technology. And as for the customer discovery process, we've interviewed approximately 40 people across Florida, California, Virginia, and even Maine. So I was just up in Maine, in Acadia National Park, and it was around the Thanksgiving holidays. And interviewing a guy, came across a guy, and apparently they just had a power outage the day before Thanksgiving. But he recalled that a couple of years ago they had a really, very bad snowstorm. And this guy was 60 years old. He lived in a mobile home. He rented. And he had no power for 4 days. So I asked, how did you deal with it? Well, he said, I just bundled up and closed, and that's it. And so that's devastating, right? So our solution in that scenario can help still turn on the fans, keep the fans running during the cold winter time. The Northeast, they use natural gas or propane for heating, and they use electric fans to distribute the heat around the house. So it's not like using electric heating, and it requires a lot of power. So our solution can help with that instance. The renter can just buy it, plug it in, instead of asking the homeowner to do all these upgrades, which they might not even want to. Like the landlord might not even want to. Yeah. Thank you.
I'd now love to welcome up Moha from Hydrogenics.
Hello, everyone. My name is Moha Shah Jamoli. I'm co-founder and CEO of Hydrogenics. At Hydrogenics, our main mission is on-demand, on-site, and safe production of hydrogen peroxide for industrial applications. Hydrogen peroxide is a very high-volume commodity, and we use it in many different applications. In terms of scale, every day we use 40 million of hydrogen peroxide, which is equivalent to 850 trucks of hydrogen peroxide, which is basically the main way of transportation of hydrogen peroxide to end user. There are a lot of applications for hydrogen peroxide, from pulp and paper, chemical synthesis, water waste treatment, mining, and even textile. After going through a lot of research, we realized the traditional way of making or producing hydrogen peroxide has 4 major problems. The first, it has transportation and storage costs, and also a lot of hazards related to that. I'll explain that in the next slide. Also, it has a very high environmental impact, as well as high energy and capex demand. And the most important factor is that it has a very, very complex supply chain. There is a high regulation for hydrogen peroxide storage and transportation. You can see on top portion, there are a few examples of that. Hazmat tanker is needed for transportation of hydrogen peroxide. And if you give hydrogen peroxide a little bit of heat or even light, it can decompose to water and oxygen. And that's why they use it in rocket science and space in general. And because of exactly that reason, at the bottom of the screen, you see a lot of accidents. This is only from 2023 and 2024, both in US and overseas. Unfortunately, the one in China ended up with 10 fatalities and 1 serious injury. Enough of bad news. So at Hydrogenics, we managed to solve all those 4 problems that I've mentioned. Our technology is on-site and on-demand, so no need to store and no need to transport the hydrogen peroxide. This technology could be low CO2 or even like CO2-free. Depends on how you source the electricity. It has a very low energy and low capex, and most importantly, it produces a very efficient and direct supply chain for hydrogen peroxide. The magic happens on the device on the right, which is either an electrochemical cell or a stack of cells. We get oxygen from air, mix it with water, and we use electricity or renewable electricity to do the magic and make hydrogen peroxide. Here I just want to very quickly compare traditional way with Hydrogenics method. And I want to focus on number 2 and 3. In our process, we don't use any organic solvent, which is a major plus. And also, we use 8 times less energy as compared to the traditional way. Our technology is fully protected. We have 3 provisional patents, 1 license agreement, and 1 joint IP with Idaho National Lab. And also, we have 1 trade secret, which belongs to the overall technology that we are developing. As part of DOE Boost, we managed to do 82 interviews, market discovery, and you can see some of the companies and organizations and corporations in different categories on the slide that we managed to conduct interview. Out of those 82, 2 of them were quite significant. Senior manager at Mitsubishi Gas Chemical told us that they love this technology. Why? Because it completely removed the problem that they have. Apparently, by transportation, they produce a lot of contamination within the hydrogen peroxide, and that's a very, very challenging task for them. If you don't transport it or store it, definitely there is no contamination. The other significant news that we got was from an executive in a mining company. Apparently, in a remote mining, if you want to get hydrogen peroxide, you need to spend 3 to 5x of the actual cost of hydrogen peroxide in order to transport it and use it. So definitely these two cases are quite significant. The market for hydrogen peroxide is quite massive. The total addressable market for it is around 7 billion, and the obtainable market for us is about 120 million, which is 10% of the market share. Our beachhead market is electronics, semiconductors, and recycling, because of the news that we got from market discovery. And also it has another advantage. For electronics application, the demand and the volume is very low, but the profit margin is much higher. Our strategy for sell is B2B and B2G, and our go-to-market strategy is basically we will be the first customer of this technology, and I'll explain very briefly. So our core technology is producing graphite from methane, and it turns out that hydrogen peroxide could be very useful in that process. Based on our techno-economic analysis, we realized that we can reduce the cost by between 7 to 12%. We got great traction so far, 7 LOIs. We actually got another one for hydrogen peroxide today. You can see the roadmap for our 2026. We incorporated in 2024 and we'll get R&D licensing by Q2. We will do the CRADA, and in Q3 and Q4, we want to scale up the process by 5 times and 10 times respectively. Here is the overall roadmap for both for graphite and hydrogen peroxide, and this is the team. Consists of 5 PhD scientists with more than 7 years of experience in chemical engineering and material topics. And this is our selected advisors from both national labs, industry, and academia. We are part of Department of Energy Chain Innovation Reaction, and we are working to scale up this technology at Argonne National Lab. So far, we raised around 1.3 million, and we have a 550K in pending grants. We want to raise 4 million for our next round. And in terms of our ask, we are looking for our second pilot, and also we're looking for partnership in specific categories that I've mentioned there. Thank you so much for your attention.
Could you go back to the spend slide, what you're going to spend? I think it was ask, was how you titled it. What does the prototype involve? Is it mostly R&D, or are you using non-dilutive funding for that? What is the breakdown on the 4 million you're raising?
Since we are dealing with 2 different technologies at the same time, both on the graphite side and also on hydrogen peroxide, I think for the graphite is more towards the scale up, so no R&D involved. But for, since we are TRL level like 6, but for the hydrogen peroxide, I think the TRL level is around 4, so definitely more R&D needs to be involved.
Can you clarify a little bit more on those 2 different technologies? Is it the same base IP that has those 2 different capabilities, or is it different products entirely?
Completely different product, but let me very briefly explain, because that's quite important. So as I said, our core technology is US-based production of graphite and hydrogen. The problem here is that, out of the reactor, the concentration of carbon or the purity of carbon is between 90 to 95%. But if you want to basically sell the graphite for batteries or for nuclear, you need to be 99.99 or 99.999, like 5 nines. And for those applications, you need to have a very pure graphite. The IP that we developed is basically using hydrogen peroxide to efficiently and costly purify the graphite in the process.
Okay, so just dovetailing on that insightful answer, can you tell me again, more or less, how do you plan to make money over time? Is this licensing, or are you getting into the sale of the byproduct, or just walk me through how you plan to generate revenue, and is any of it recurring?
Yeah, so for the graphite, we want to sell it directly. We have a very strong team around graphite and carbon. I came from Silicon Nanotechnology, one of the famous startups in the battery space. So for that specific one, it's a direct sell. We realized that hydrogen peroxide is very useful for us, but it could be useful for others, especially towards electronics applications, semiconductor, and also like chemical leaching in general. So for those applications, we want to sell the device. We want to sell the electrochemical, device that we make with them. And here is the example of graphite that was purified using the hydrogen peroxide. I didn't bring too much because I was afraid of TSA, but we can produce almost like a kilogram of this type of graphite, which is very useful for lithium-ion batteries.
All right, we're now going to go into a 5-minute break to give our judges an opportunity to catch up on some scoring. Feel free to move around, and we'll be right back.
Good questions. Yeah, fair.
So the last one wants to sell the machine electrolyte.
Yes.
Right, to somebody in India.
So that they can make their own hydrogen
That's a
peroxide on
one-time
site.
transaction. Do you service that thing on the back end?
That's a good question. Yeah, I would assume so. Yeah.
And then the carbon that he had in that, he's also going to sell that.
He's gonna sell the graphite. Yeah, yeah. So he's using the hydrogen peroxide making tech. Make hydrogen peroxide to make graphite for his other services.
Yeah, so
Okay.
make the graphite.
What?
Trying to unwind
We're just
the
chatting.
last business model.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm thinking of a licensing deal. Unless he's going to raise it online and start manufacturing stuff, right? That's capital intensive.
For sure.
So I didn't think 4 million was.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
And then, is there anybody else in the space that mentioned anything about competition? About anybody else doing this?
He didn't say there was anyone else doing it that way, I guess. He said it was, yeah, he didn't say.
Time.
I know, it's hard.
For all of them.
For all of them, yeah.
So how are you guys feeling? I mean, you feel
I
like
appreciate the check.
Yeah.
I appreciate the check-in because it's like you get to questions and
I'm a pretty simple guy.
yeah, well, but sometimes it really is like, well, you didn't cover this. Like,
Yeah,
how does it work?
I don't know how, yeah. I mean, for example, for the lattice energy, I was saying to Travis, I feel like it sounds great. I think to your question about the architecture of it, like I still don't understand physically how it works.
Yeah, like I know solar pretty well. I think.
Yeah.
I'll give you a biased opinion. This is my space. So I know that there's a lot of people, I've seen several companies trying to do microgrids in a box.
Sure, okay.
Many even including Siemens that failed at.
Okay.
And so this is an interesting take. We're not supposed to judge them, or handicap the likelihood he's successful.
Sure.
I think we have to judge them how well prepared.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, because I know so much about the space, the came across to me as, this is a business that I know in Germany is scaling. People are hanging on their flats, in front of their facades, PV panels, and just plugging them in. So this is
Okay.
they're attracting a lot of money.
Okay.
So he's assuming behind them, he's extracting away the technology to keep going to that.
Sure. Yeah. Sure.
You get cut off by like free technology.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You're the VC on the table. You're the VC at the table.
Yeah, I think VCHAT can stay on. Yeah.
I struck a check, but the criteria is different.
Sure. Sure.
But they're all outstanding. I mean, it's good stuff. I love it.
Yeah.
I wish we could do this. And have like 20 companies come in and pitch it. I love hearing about all these.
Yeah. They're all doing a really good job. No one's done a bad job.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you judged it last year.
I did last year too. Yeah.
It was more companies.
Hello, everyone. Please find a seat so we can resume the second half of today's showcase. Please try to make your way back to a seat. We will have a longer refreshment section at the end of the day. All right, we're going to resume in about 5 seconds here. All right, welcome back, everyone. Yeah. Our next presenter is Joe from FieldSim. I'd like to ask everyone to either take a seat or turn it down.
All right, let's listen to Emmanuel. He's all the way from DC. Emmanuel!
Thank you, Drew. All right, yep, love the energy. I'd love to now welcome up Joe from FieldSim to continue today's presentations.
Hi everyone, I'm Joe, and together with my partner Waku, who's joining us virtually, we're here to talk to you today about FieldSim, the operating system for smarter farms. Farmers today are producing greater crop yields than ever before, but profit margins are thin due to inefficiencies that exist within the farming operation. These inefficiencies are caused by excess driving in the field and overspraying. Fuel, labor wages, and farming inputs like seed, fertilizer, chemicals, and water are all wasted, costing farmers in the U.S. $8 billion per year. And this happens because farmers rely on GPS in their tractors for execution. And GPS is great at drawing straight lines on a map, but farming is not straight or simple. And GPS fails at handling the complexity that comes with the real farm. And it struggles with managing irregular shaped fields and dynamic conditions in the farm. So why now? We learned from over 50 discovery calls, attending 3 in-person conferences, and doing an in-person project plan that farming is facing a critical labor shortage now that is causing wage costs to spike. And in general, costs continue to rise and profit margins are contracting. And most importantly, farming is hard. These operations are highly detail intensive and they require precision execution. And our solution builds off of an invention made by Dr. Lionel Toba at the Idaho National Laboratory, which is a simulation software that can calculate field efficiency based on the shape of the field and the driving conditions. FieldSim will build off of that invention and create a full farm digital twin that can generate the driving path and tell farmers where to apply their inputs based on field efficiency. So FieldSim is a software that simulates the optimal work sequence, visualizes it for the farmer, and automatically connects it to their existing work tools so the farmers can go and execute. FieldSim doesn't require any hardware, and it works with any machine, whether it be a green tractor, a combine harvester, or an autonomous robot. Our business model is simple. We'll follow a traditional SaaS model priced at $2 per acre per year, offering a strong ROI for farmers. We expect that the average 2,000 acre farm can realize a 4 to 5x return on the initial investment. And core to our business model is our product strategy of enabling FieldSim to work with existing work tools. This will allow us to keep our costs low and make an immediate impact for the farmer. And to support our commercialization goals, we've secured a partnership with Montana State University's Precision Agriculture Department and the Headwaters Tech Hub, and sponsored by the U.S. Economic Development Administration. And specifically, Montana State University becomes FieldSim's strategic commercialization partner. We've worked with the university to put together a formal project plan at their 600-acre research testbed, Lutz Farm. Pictured here is myself, Walt, who is the farm manager, and John from the Headwaters Tech Hub. And together we'll co-develop FieldSim, test it on real equipment in real farming conditions, and gain access to MSU's grower network for product feedback and continuous discovery. And supporting this project is the Headwaters Tech Hub. They are the facilitator between FieldSim and MSU. And officially, as of today, they helped us secure a $19,000 grant from the EDA that will fund MSU and allow them to allocate resources to support our project. And our opportunity is simple. There are 900 million acres of farmland in total in the United States. Our beachhead market will address 100 Montana farms, 2,000 acre each, and we think that we can achieve a $400,000 ARR, or annual revenue rate. As far as our roadmap goes, 2026 will be laser focused on MVP development and our initial go-to-market strategy. We'll hit the ground running in Q1 with initial development and prototyping and in parallel some grant writing. In Q2, we're really excited about this. It'll be the first time we'll be in the field running field sim on real tractors at MSU. And next summer, we're planning a demo day to present an MVP version of field sim at the Headwaters Tech Hub Annual Innovation Day. And by the end of the year, we're expecting to onboard our lead customers, which would include 5 to 10 Montana farms. And so if full year 26 is focused on go-to-market planning and our MVP development, 2027 will be focused on iterating on our MVP, adding features to our product, and scaling. We think we've got great traction in Montana, but we want to scale field sim to be able to help farmers nationwide. And the team to make it happen are Waku and myself. Waku is a PhD candidate at Carnegie Mellon University. Her focus is in management, technology, and sustainability. And I'm Joe. I'm a product manager with over 10 years of software development experience at places like Amazon and TaskRabbit. So we've got the partnership, we've got the team. What we need now are collaborators to help us accelerate development of our MVP. And our ask here today is $50,000 in funding for us to establish that collaboration and bring field sim to the world. And Waku and I have already started leaning on our networks to identify simulation experts, AI engineers, and even an outsourced engineering team that can help us with software development. So thank you everyone for your time. And that's field sim.
So, do you have any direct competition in this space?
Yeah, we do. There are large incumbents in the market now, like John Deere, for example, has a software solution that does routing. And there are also new entrants and startups that are doing similar things that are trying to optimize driving paths in the field. We think that we will be able to compete in a few different ways. One, by expanding our breadth of integrations. So for example, John Deere is incentivized to have their software work with their hardware. We want field sim to work with any OEM. And then also, we're leaning in heavily on our university partnership. We've got some really great folks we're partnering with in Montana that have access to unique technologies, such as sensors and other data sets that we can incorporate into our simulation to provide a better path optimization.
So API friendly, no vendor lock-in. That's how you plan to build it out. Got
Exactly.
it.
And that model is proven elsewhere in ag tech, and we'll follow a similar approach.
Very good. Thank you.
Have you talked to or gotten any feedback from Caterpillar, John Deere, International Harvester? Are they open to this? Are they, as he mentioned, see this as competition or willing to pilot?
Not directly, but we've talked to stakeholders that work closely with John Deere, for example, and they shared a lot of resources with us on exactly how we can integrate. And like a lot of software, John Deere Operations Center offers a suite of public APIs that we're able to connect with directly, and it's common for them to work with other vendors and other partners. But yeah, we have access to those folks at those larger companies, but we haven't had conversations yet.
Do you envision, is it off-the-shelf hardware? I'm sorry if I missed that part, but
Yes.
is a bolt-on?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So what's common today is a traditional GPS solution. And in order for a farmer to enable GPS, they need to purchase a modem and install it on their tractor or any other piece of equipment. Our goal is to integrate directly with that hardware, and so that we don't ask farmers to buy additional hardware.
When do you see that 400,000 in ARR happening? I didn't see that on the roadmap.
We think year 2. So our first year, we think we'll be able to land our lead customers leveraging our partnership in Montana. So we'll have grower access that will hope to convert pilot or demo customers into paying customers in year 1. And then we expect to scale that up in year 2 to get to 100 farms. And that's where we came up with that revenue rate based on our pricing model.
It sounds like smaller and mid-sized farms. Is that the size range or the target?
Larger farms, its average size is 2,000 acres. So yeah, if you look at the market, there are a lot of there are about 300 million acres of farmland that make up farms that earn 1 million in revenue or more. So that's our target serviceable market. So yeah, we want to target those farms that are earning that revenue.
What's the average duration of your sales cycle? How long does it take to get a deal done? Or how long do you think it's going to take?
We haven't tested that yet. We think that we envision FieldSim being a partner with the farm. We want to be sharing the same goal of saving the partner money so FieldSim can generate money. So ultimately, we believe that we'll have to prove our ROI. And once we do, our sales cycle will accelerate. So, we're working with our partnership and to gain access to growers. And based on that, we'll probably have a longer sales cycle in the beginning, but speed up as we start proving our value.
Up next, I'd love to welcome Ruben, John, and Brendan from Cymatic Solutions.
Okay, hi everyone. We are Cymatic Solutions, and we're excited to talk to you about how we are planning on closing the power gap one wave at a time. So we've all heard the saying, we know more about space than we do our own oceans, right? It's impossible for us to know where all the submarines are around the world at any given time. And this leads to real security risk for ourselves, leaving us open to foreign attacks. In addition, the lack of having continuous real-time data in the ocean leads to inaccurate weather forecasting, reduces our ability to track ecosystem degradation, and really hinders our ability to react to natural disasters, putting again at risk human life. So this data gap is largely due to what we are calling the big power gap in the ocean. So right now, it's not really possible to supply 50 to 1,000 watts in the ocean in a reliable way. And so this is leading to very primitive data collection and workarounds. So for example, a lot of the data buoys in the water today don't transmit data until every 4 days and are limited to low power sensors. So making sonar, radar, high image reporting very infeasible and not realistic. Some of these workarounds can be pretty extreme. So for example, the way that we actually try to identify a foreign submarine is we actually have to fly to the ocean in an area where we suspect there might be a submarine, and we drop over 120 one-time use sonar sensors just to see if there might be a submarine. And so that essentially is tens of thousands of costs per mission. So by closing this power gap, we're essentially envisioning a world where something like continuous sonar sensing could be possible. Or you can imagine a world where the Coast Guard can have camera stations at various parts of the world where they're making sure that illegal fishing doesn't happen, especially when boats try to turn off their GPS tracking system. So these examples and more are all possible if we're able to kind of meet this unmet market need. So the way that we're planning on closing this power gap is essentially through a simple wave energy converter. So the way that we're proposing is essentially taking this flexible, low-cost, wave-driven water pump that you see here and having it force water through a turbine to create electricity. So this inherently low-cost, simple design allows not only to support high power sensors, but could potentially act as a charging station in the middle of the ocean for autonomous vehicles at all latitudes, especially in areas where solar energy is not as reliably available. And we can not only, and in addition to that, we can also leverage the fact that this technology is inherently soft and deformable to not only prevent biofouling, but also withstand the extremities of the ocean. So when it comes to kind of the power landscape, the traditional like solar panel plus battery combo is not really able to address this power gap. And then the incumbent rigid wave energy converters now either don't survive too much in the ocean, or they do survive because they've been so overly engineered and complex that drives up the cost. So for comparison, a similar in size wave energy converter now can be up to $50,000 in just material cost alone. And so we believe that with our solution, we can provide a full-scale power solution at 10% of that cost.
Our initial business model is to be a hardware supplier earning a margin on product sales. We'll sell our product as a standalone, plug-and-play power source that can easily integrate with any data buoy or autonomous vehicle. We'll look at two types of target customers: data buoy manufacturers and also research and defense organizations that operate their own data collection networks. In the future, we plan to capture more value by integrating vertically. We can develop our own buoys where our power solution is built directly into the buoy itself. We can also develop power stations for autonomous vehicles or develop our own range of autonomous vehicles as well. We can also build on our hardware solutions to offer data as a service. There are currently 50,000 data collection platforms on the ocean around the world, but our solution allows us to unlock a lot of latent demand. We believe that we can enable 30,000 additional data collection platforms that were currently not feasible. So looking at just the spend on power sources for these platforms gives us a total addressable market of $1.2 billion, 610 million of which are directly serviceable by us, and we expect to be able to capture 1% of this in our first few years of operation. For a little more validation of what the size of this problem is, the One Big Beautiful Bill earmarked $250 million just for development of wave power solutions for autonomous vehicles.
So why us? To solve this problem, we need a team of not only engineers, but a team that can build, scale, and sell. We bring that perfect balance. We've been executing as a cohesive unit since day one of this Boost program. Between Ruben's experience scaling ventures to the millions in revenue, John's track record in energy hardware, Scott's know-how in wave energy, and my own background in AUV integration and aerospace, we cover every angle: commercial, operational, and technical. So moving forward, our strategy is disciplined and capital efficient. Our immediate focus for year one is technical de-risking using non-dilutive capital. And we're pursuing SBIR and STTR grants to fund the development of our full-scale prototype, as well as validate and test an integrated turbine into this system and do those tests in the water. We also know that technology alone isn't always enough, and customer discovery never ends, so we intend to participate in the NSF I-Corps program. By year two, we're shifting gears from R&D to commercial validation. We aren't just looking for testers. We're targeting paid pilots with strategic customers, such as the Coast Guard for maritime domain awareness. And then in proving our reliability through those pilots, it unlocks the kind of final aspect for our seed round, where we intend to transition into full-scale production. In terms of the funds, we intend to support our R&D efforts and increasing our TRL level using funds we may win through this competition, along with customer discovery through conferences and other similar events. With this in mind, we're looking for industry as well as customer connections to push forward our development. So we have the plan, we have the team, and we're ready to close the ocean power gap one wave at a time. Thank you.
Could
Could you explain what makes it so durable in deep ocean, extreme weather events, and
Yeah,
waves?
so that's kind of the magic of this technology is essentially the thing that absorbs the energy of the wave is inherently like made out of soft materials. You can kind of think of it almost like a balloon in the ocean that deforms when a wave passes over, and that's what's actually outputting the water into the turbine. So a lot of these other wave energy systems like are rigid, and so they almost have to design to survive the ocean. In this case, the compliant nature is kind of what we think is our unique advantage.
Could you explain that use case again for autonomous vehicles?
Yeah, so I mean, like John mentioned, we believe this is actually a really good beachhead for us because of the focus of the Big Beautiful Bill. But essentially the idea is we can provide a power source in the ocean to charge these autonomous vehicles. So almost thinking like a Roomba charging station in the middle of the ocean. They could walk around, collect their data, whatever they need, come back, charge up, go back again.
What does the hardware required for the manufacturing of this product look like? In terms of on your roadmap for scaling, what kind of capital investment will that require? Is it complicated? Is it simple hardware?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So the benefit also is that it's fairly simple and uses like cheap materials, at least for the water pumping. We then need to kind of figure out still how to attach it to a turbine, and there's going to be electronics complexities of how do you handle the spikes in energies, but we're expecting, because of the simplicity of the design, that we can do this at low cost in our potential garages.
So what do you think the warrantable life is or will be for your hardware stack? How long will it last out there before you have to get out there and replace it?
Yeah, I mean, so to be honest, we'd be guessing, but we do believe that soft nature is going to be able to survive longer. That is why in year 2 we've kind of wanted to do, we have to do the prototyping in the lab and then do these in-ocean pilot testing to really see how long it lasts. Yeah.
So to kind of add to that a little bit, the solution is theoretically self-cleaning, so it avoids biofouling a lot more than other systems. And in addition to that, I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
So it's self-cleaning, and the battery system, the electrical system, is actually more likely to require maintenance and replacement long before our system does.
Maybe I can also add to that. And
go ahead. Yep.
I mean, just to compare with legacy solutions, like a lot of the battery and solar powered solutions will only last 3 to 6 months in the water.
And then, does anyone else in the competitive sphere offer this software stack, this data as a service platform? I mean, have you thought through possibly licensing out the manufacturing or the delivery of the hardware, and then going for the ARR business model with the better margins?
Yeah, so right now there's only 1 or 2 companies that are doing data collection as a service. And I would agree that there's an opportunity for manufacturing partnerships. So as we build partnerships with buoy manufacturers, we might be able to find a way to work with them on that.
Please join me in welcoming Stephanie and Alfredo from Neoform.
Okay. Okay, hello everyone. My name is Stephanie Taboada, and this is my colleague Alfredo Galvan, and we're here today to talk to you about our biopolymer composite. And this is a technology that came out of Sandia National Lab. So what is a composite? A composite basically has a binder, which is typically a resin, and it has an aggregate, which is some sort of gravel or sand. And so in this case, Sandia National Lab actually came up with what's called a biopolymer composite, and it has biopolyurethane, which is the binder, plus a little bit of sand. So we'll talk a little bit more about how unique this technology is. So currently, what's the issue in the composites market? Basically, you have, for example, engineered concrete is a type of composite, and you see here all of the issues associated with that. You know, it cracks, it's heavy to transport, so expensive. Additionally, we have epoxies. So epoxies do yellow over time. They're not UV resistant, and they also lack temperature durability. And finally, they have poor chemical resistance. Now, another issue with this market is also decarbonization. It is a difficult market to decarbonize. So we spoke to several customers, over 50 actually, and they all stated, you know, what they were looking for. They want thin, basically composites that are lightweight, so easy to transport, as well as composites that can be moldable for complex shapes. They won't break, they won't fail, essentially. And so they're also looking for items that will last, they'll be durable, and with low maintenance costs. So this will justify any premium costs that come up. So here's where this technology comes in. So Neoform is the name of our company, and it's basically the only composite that can address all of these industry needs. So it actually reduces carbon emissions by about 50%. It also can be able to manufacture thin sections out of this technology without any cracking. It's moldable. You can mold this into complex shapes for, you know, architectural products. UV chemical resistant as well, and it also cures pretty rapidly, which just means that it hardens. So here in the image, you can see some of the products that we're actually considering actually molding. For example, we have here a sink as well as custom designer furniture for exterior outdoor patios, for example. And then later on, we're going to target 3D printed markets. So for example, printing 3D printed planters as well as homes. And then industrial markets as well, such as like flooring and industrial structural repair. So here you could see some of our competitor materials. We're looking at engineered concrete, ultra high performance concrete. We have 3D mortar, stone, epoxies, and all of these have issues associated with them that I previously mentioned, such as, you know, they lack UV resistance, they're brittle, concrete is heavy to transport, which makes it expensive. Additionally, for 3D printing, for example, these have poor interlayer bonding, which just means that they're not going to print correctly. So our advantage for this technology is we can actually address all of these issues. So this technology has what's called carbon nanotubes, which are excellent for high interlayer bonding. So for 3D printing, like I said before, flexible, cures very quickly, UV resistant, chemical resistant, which is great for industrial markets as well. And of course, moldable with high tensile strength and lightweight. So here is our beachhead market. We're looking specifically at the moldable premium architectural market, which is about $20 to $30 million, has a very high growth rate, so 20%. And then later on, we're going to look at 3D printing. So specifically, like I said, 3D printing of homes, 3D printing of architectural products like maybe planters, and then later on, industrial flooring as well as industrial repair. And these are growing markets. So you could see here 4 billion, 14 billion, and 2 billion. So what is our plan? So phase 1, we are looking at applying for an SBIR, and this will help us develop prototypes, which we'll then use to then sell directly to clients. And then later on in phase 2, we're going to look at certifications. So in order to enter, for example, 3D printing, as well as industrial markets, we need to be certified. And then phase 3, we're looking at licensing and partnerships. So once we have our own formulations, we'll be able to license this technology to like 3D printing companies so they can actually 3D print these planters that we've mentioned. And then here's our team. So myself, I'm an engineering professor. I have industry background. I also went through the I-Corps program, and I currently teach entrepreneurship at a university level. My colleague, Alfredo Galvan, he is a polymer engineer. So he has plenty of experience in entrepreneurship, having built several companies from the ground up. And then we have Jessica Rimza, who is the R&D material scientist as well as product inventor from Sandia National Lab. So we're looking for $150,000 basically for starting up. So we need it for scale-up pilot production. We're looking for partners in 3D printing, molding, industrial repair and flooring. And we also need this for testing. So if you're interested in joining us, shape the next generation of sustainable materials, you can certainly reach out to us. You can scan the QR code, and you'll see a website that we've designed with more of the products that we have considered building. So we hope you can join us, and if you have questions, of course, you can come speak to us after.
So a lot of different applications for this product that you went over, even in your phase one. So how do you, I think there was architectural products, tiles, sinks, all listed in phase one. Those are all different markets in and of themselves.
Right.
How do you pick what you go, do you know which one you go for first? If not, how do you pick that to capitalize on that best opportunity?
Well, basically, our business model is focused in the first stage as a B2C. But as you mentioned, there's a broad amount of products that can be built in this, with this technology. Basically, what we are focusing the premium products in order to capitalize the company, create revenue as fast as possible. And that allows us to proceed to the second stage, that would be all the testing and certification needed to focus on the following market, that would be the industrial.
Well, I appreciate the real revenue growth. Are you thinking the pilots, the early pilots, early B2C sales, those direct sales, are they residential, are they consumer? And when you talk about industrial, is it following on after that? I was wondering, is there any niche you see that no one else can serve? There's a use case where, because of all the problems you listed, your solution makes it possible.
In that terms, basically, the B2C, because we are thinking in premium markets, basically, what we think that is the best way to do that is, try to partner in the second stage with other companies in order to go to that kind of market and feel that is space.
So then what you're saying is, go direct in phase one, get to break even as quickly as possible, right? And so how do you do that? Maybe walk me through the sales motion for phase one. Can you walk me through, possibly just give me a hypothetical sales motion for trying to go after close a deal in phase one?
Okay, basically, because we are focusing on that kind of market, well, our designs and requirements for that kind of premium products, they are very specific, and they have specific requirements. We are planning to focus in solving that kind of market in order to generate revenue. But basically, is that is the focus, and partner with designers, with architects, with architectural firms in order to create revenue in the first stage. Thank you.
Finally, please welcome Joseph, Caitlin, and Jose from Clever Glass.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. We are Clever Glass. These are my co-founders, Katie and Joe, and I am Jose. It's 3 p.m. on a Wednesday. You've just landed in Albuquerque for a pitch competition, but you need to make some last-minute slide edits, so you hop into your local coffee shop. When you walk in, you realize most of the seats are full, except for a few by the windows. You go to put your things down and immediately feel the heat of the sunlight, and the glare makes it impossible to see your screen. You go for the blinds and notice an authoritative piece of Scotch tape that says, "Do not touch." You won't be able to get any work done here. No wonder these seats are empty. You grab your things, scramble out, coffeeless, slides unfinished, and the shop loses another customer.
If that coffee shop had dynamic glass, those window seats would have been the most popular in the house. Dynamic glass can adjust tint to block glare, UV light, and reduce heat, all without blocking the view. There are two basic types of dynamic glass, electrochromic and thermochromic. Electrochromic, as the name suggests, adjusts tint based on electronic control and requires connections to external power and servers, whereas thermochromic glass adjusts tint based on temperature alone. Despite this impressive technology, windows today have been stuck in the 1980s. Through our customer discovery, we found out why. From designers to building owners, we heard consistent barriers. Electrochromics struggled with cost and installation complexity, whereas thermochromics struggled with durability, quality issue, and uniformity problems. These issues led to weak return on investment and poor customer adoption. Clever Glass is a thermochromic technology that switches transparency based on temperature, with no wiring and no controls, and it fits naturally into standard manufacturing and into retrofits. It's based on a novel pseudo-solid to solid phase transition and a metal halide perovskite. It's also highly tunable and adaptable. We can set and optimize the transition temperature, and it will work well in different climates. So it will work just as well in Phoenix, Arizona, as it will in Fairbanks, Alaska. This technology is still early. We're at a TRL of about 3, but we believe it will excel where other thermochromic solutions have fallen short. We envision an ultra-low-cost laminate compatible with existing production workflows that provides long-term durability, energy savings, and comfort for occupants.
Clever Glass will be licensed to glass fabricators. Our customers will be able to easily add a desirable new offering into their product lines. We estimate that a highly glazed, mid-sized building in Denver could save $94,000 annually by using Clever Glass on top of double pane as opposed to only double pane glass. And we're only charging $15 for it. On top of being a steal, that makes us more cost effective than our leading competitors, blinds. And as an added bonus, happy guests buy more coffee.
Our beachhead market would be experience-focused retailers, spaces like coffee shops. We chose this market because we heard clear interest during our customer discovery. We learned from a design retailer that their clients really value transparency because people are more likely to walk into a store if they're able to see into this space. And once they're inside the space, comfort matters because people spend more when they stay longer. These brands also renovate pretty frequently to keep up with customer trends, which gives us opportunity to integrate new materials. A great example of this is Starbucks, who started a plan this year to renovate over 1,000 locations by the end of 2026. Starting here will give people the opportunity to experience this technology in spaces that they already visit all the time, which will help us expand into broader commercial and residential applications. Which is incredibly important because this problem goes far beyond retail. Buildings use a ton of energy, and a lot of that is spent managing heat that's gained and lost at windows. And modern buildings use more glass than ever. At the same time, we have some really cool emerging technologies on the horizon, like AI, but they're going to require a lot of energy to support. The Department of Energy has recognized this, and the new Genesis mission really highlights the urgency around grid and energy innovation. So it's very, very clear that we need clever solutions for how we save energy in buildings.
And here's our roadmap for how we plan to get Clever Glass from TRL 3 all the way to license ready. In 2025, we're completing the DOE Boost program, and we've applied to Westgate. In 2026, we're incorporating and applying for non-dilutive funding. In 2027, we'll be developing our prototypes for initial testing and working with retail partners for evaluation. And by 2028, we'll be deploying our first field pilots, validating long-term performance, and working with our partners for scale-up.
And it's an absolute pleasure to introduce the team. Joe's a physicist and experienced founder. Jose's a chemist with tech transfer experience, and I bring an operational perspective from my time as a Navy pilot. We work really well together, and we're super grateful for this collaboration. We also understand that we have some gaps, and our first planned hire would be a fenestration expert. We'd also like to take a moment to thank Lance Wheeler, Rob Tennant, and our coach, Latane Brackett, for all their support throughout the program.
Our ask is simple. If we receive prize funding, we'll establish our business, participate in industry events, and work with experts who can help us bring this technology to market. And from the audience, we would welcome any connections that you might have with people who work in the glass and building space. Our vision is to bring this technology, our vision is for this technology to become the new status quo, finally bringing Windows out of 1980s technology and into the future, where we can all enjoy comfort you can feel and energy you can save. Thank you so much.
You said it would work equally well in Phoenix or Fairbanks. So a question about one of the benefits you also listed, that there's no wiring or like programming, I'm assuming, required. So then how does that account for if it's temperature based? We have summer and we have winter in Albuquerque. So how does that factor into the...
Absolutely. That's a great question. And part of it is through modulation of the solar heat gain coefficient. So basically, compared to low E coatings on glass, which already block a lot of sunlight. So if you had that installed in Alaska, which would work well in the summer, it would not work as well in the winter. And so with this technology, you basically change your solar heat gain. So in the summer, you're rejecting a lot of that heat. But in the winter, you're absorbing that heat and you're performing better than low E glass would.
So I think you said you wanted to license this to fabricators as your initial go-to-market. Do the fabricators have to retool or do anything differently than what they're currently doing, or can this be inserted into their standard manufacturing processes today?
This should fit right into standard manufacturing processes. They already have the tools and equipment and expertise to apply laminates and frame and do all of that. So this should be a very nice drop-in addition.
Do you believe there's opportunity for a retrofit pilot before 2027, 2028?
That's a great question. If you have some ideas, we're happy to talk with you about them.
Related to that, have you done a cost comparison to the electrochromic cost, including the cost savings for heating, cooling expense?
Yeah, actually the cost for electrochromic glass is much, much higher than it would be for this thermochromic technology, like at least an order of magnitude. So it's a big difference, yeah. But great question.
I also assume it's cheaper than BIPV, like building integrated photovoltaics using inside of glass?
Yes, yeah. This is related to some photovoltaic technologies. However, it is different, and we envision that it will also be lower cost than building integrated photovoltaics and simpler to implement as well. Great question.
Thanks for the enthusiasm.
So as we transition and give our judges an opportunity to deliberate, I'd love to welcome up Robin Brazil, Chief Delivery Officer at FedTech, as well as Edson Perez and Dan Doble, founders of Parawatt Energy and Loop Chemicals, to speak to us about their journey from lab to market. All right. It's going to be about a 20 to 30-minute conversation, which will then be followed by the announcement of winners. We'll then have some refreshments.
Go ahead, guys. Yeah. All right, we have the very hard task of keeping the entrepreneurs distracted while their fate is decided with some real money on the line. But I know we also have other entrepreneurs in the audience. Before we get started, we're going to talk with Dan and Edson here. They both represent two Sandia spin-outs, one that came out of the DOE Boost program just a year ago, and another that participated in the studio in a state-level effort in Massachusetts. So two very different examples, so we're going to dig into that. I also do want to recognize we had David and Chuck, two entrepreneurs for New Mexico local teams as well. So I want to give them a shout out of having the effect of having regional impacts, the whole spirit of what we were trying to set out. There's Chuck back there, and I saw David. So a huge thank you to those entrepreneurs and still growing their businesses here in New Mexico. So really, really appreciate that. So let's go ahead and dive in. Would love each of you kind of just introduce what you're working on right now,
how you came into your respective studio programs. And maybe we'll start with Dan and then go over to Edson.
Okay, so I guess I'll start by saying, so first of all, you can think of myself as really a mid-career professional, right? I've spent several years working in industry. I'm actually a chemist, but I've worked in, initially I was in the semiconductor industry, then renewable energy, working in solar, and most recently, actually, I've been 14 years now in SABIC, a large petrochemical company. Anyway, I've always had the entrepreneurial itch my entire career. You know, I've always wanted to start a company, always really wanted to, create something. Back when I did my PhD and postdoc, the infrastructure wasn't there like it is now, right? Plus, I would say the other thing which I faced throughout my career is, you may have noticed this, right? So the guys in software, I think, have it quite good, right? Because all they need is a laptop computer and they can start up a company, right? It's not so difficult. If you're in something like materials, chemistry, energy, obviously there's a lot more challenges, right? You need labs, you actually need some kind of technology to get going with. So anyway, I'd heard about this thing called the Climate Tech Studio. It's based in Massachusetts, and I talked to someone on last year's cohort, and I thought, wow, that sounds like a perfect way to kind of realize my dream, really, and get starting up a company. So I applied, and I got into it. And I was partnered together with two other aspiring entrepreneurs who were fantastic to work with. And also, we did get to select the technology. We selected a technology here from Sandia National Labs. From my own point of view, it was actually quite closely related to my background. It's an ammonia production technology, and I'm a chemist. And previously I was working for an ammonia manufacturer, so it's something I knew a bit about. And so then I started off on a program, and it really has been a fantastic summer, doing the customer discovery, digging into things, coming up with our own business model, and then ultimately pitching in the end. Anyway, that's me.
All right. Hey, everyone. My name is Edson Perez, and I'm co-founder of Parawatt. So this is, my second career pivot. In a way, I spent around 7 years working in public policy and politics in California. Then I went to business school, and I started working with energy companies, advising them on how to enter the California market and how to navigate the regulatory landscape. But I was very interested in entrepreneurship, so I applied to DOE Boost, and we got paired up with a great technology out of Sandia. So now we are commercializing new magnetic materials that will significantly increase the efficiency of systems like AI data centers, solar inverters, electric motors, and other systems. And so it's a great technology when it comes to performance, but also very excitingly, it was made out of commodity raw materials. So we would directly replace magnetics made out of critical minerals and also displace rare earth metals, really helping with the domestic supply chain. So I think in just a year, we've been able to pick up a little bit of traction, and we can talk a little bit more about that, but very excited to be here just a year later.
Awesome. Well, I know so pivotal to this program, right, is that lab relationship, particularly with the inventors. So I'd love you both to touch on kind of that relationship both in the studio, but also since then, how pivotal is that? I think you both, right, spent a little time at the lab actually this week. So would love to kind of hear about that relationship from both of you. I don't know, Dan, if you want to start.
Sure, yes. So actually, say we've been working with Sandia National Labs. It really has been fantastic. Initially the introduction was through Justin, who's I think somewhere in the audience today, and that got really things kicked off. After that, we had a weekly conference call with Sandia, and it was really just a case of checking in every week. I think something which really did help, actually, so our inventor, Andrea Ambrosini, she's actually an inorganic chemist. I'm an inorganic chemist as well, right? So we were able to talk together on the same level, which helped a lot, and we were able to get pretty deeply technical right off the bat. I think, throughout, there's been a lot of trust from both sides, right? I mean, I'm a strong believer that the best way of moving technology forward is to be open. There's definitely a different school of thought out there, you know, big company mentality, you know, you want to be super secretive, not give anything away, you know, absorb stuff, but not give it away. I think we've been very open throughout, and that's been very important to learning from both sides. You know, we've been coming up with a lot of new directions, new applications for the technology, which we bounced off them, and it's been a great dialogue. I think also when it comes to licensing the technology, I mean, you know, they talk about negotiation and stuff, you know, like on one hand you want to try and license as much as you can, right, of the technology for as little money as possible and, you know, as exclusive as possible. But I mean, you know, really, I don't think you need to get into all of that. I mean, you know, so look, I mean, if we're successful, that's a great thing for Sandia, right? I mean, we've been straightforward from the outset. I mean, we cannot do a lot of the work which they can do. They've just got fantastic facilities in their labs. You know, now they're finding it tough getting funding right now as well. If we can win funding, if we can get SBIR awards, for example, then we can help bring in funding, so we can do joint work together. It's totally a win-win. So, you know, I think that the whole licensing thing has very much been a kind of a formality. You know, we're trying to help them, they're trying to help us. It has not been a big deal. We reached agreement on the licensing terms actually very quickly indeed. We're about to execute very soon. It's not been a complicated issue.
Well, congrats on that. That is pretty remarkable in a few months. So way to go, Mary, making it an easy path. But what about you, Edson?
Yeah, so I think the relationship with the inventor and the tech transfer officer and all the Sandia staff, we also, you know, out of Sandia, is essential, right? Like we wouldn't be a company without DOE Boost and without the continued relationship with Sandia. I think as soon as we mentioned that partnership with whether it's customer or investors, then they actually, their eyes open up and they actually listen to what we have to say, right? And so I think keeping that relationship ongoing. We also talk with our inventor for pretty much every week for a year, which we're eternally grateful for to both Sandia and to DOE Boost that I think helped make that happen. And we collaborated with him on 2 STTR grants and got one of them, and just on all kinds of things when it comes to licensing and all these just ongoing conversations. Having that relationship also opened up doors to more pieces of IP that we could license and build our IP portfolio, all with Sandia backing us. So it's very essential. And when it comes to talking to private investors, you know, venture capital investors, I think that getting the IP quote unquote locked up is pretty important. And to do that, you have to build that relationship.
I just want to add as well, one thing you did ask about, Robin, I forgot to mention. So, you know, we've had the weekly conference calls with Sandia every week. So today I visited Sandia and I met with our inventor, Andrea, face-to-face for the first time. And that was a very productive day. Fantastic.
Thanks, Dan. So, Edson, I want to come back to you. I hear congratulations are in order. You just had a significant milestone that the company achieved in very short order coming out of the program. Do you want to kind of share the latest on the funding round that you guys just are closing?
Sure. Thank you, Robin. By the way, Lucy, my co-founder, is here, and we both have been working really hard, and so we're just right now closing our pre-seed round.
Way to go, Lucy.
Lucy's over there, right, Lucy? We've gotten the NSF as TTR grant, California grant, a venture capital pre-seed check, and a number of strategic angel investors from the right industries, customer industries. So pulled up some funds, and we're really, with that, we built ourselves some runway for the next year to really build up our own capacity to really do not just the tech transfer, but to also build on top of that new IP and start sending out, hopefully soon enough, samples to customers and have those paid pilots and move forward. So we're really excited to have closed that.
Awesome. You mentioned, so you guys secured an NSF, STTR. I know, Dan, we talked a little bit. You're familiar kind of with DOE. I know we heard kind of big ambitions from Anthony, and we have the whole crew back there to kind of reimagine SBIR. Do you want to kind of share a little bit about, from entrepreneurs, what that experience was like for you, opportunities that you see as a small business taking advantage of a reimagined SBIR?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think I really appreciated the director's presentation about really consolidating things, streamlining things. We applied to both, like I mentioned, DOE and NSF STTRs, and the applications are kind of insane. I'm really surprised and that we were able to manage to get through it, right? And they were really back to back, so we're really able to compare it side by side. Now we didn't get the DOE one, so we haven't gone through that process. We're actually still waiting in a way, so maybe knock on wood. But on NSF, I think although the requirements are kind of crazy on the application and even crazier when it comes to once you get in, all the things that you have to do to be ready for phase 2, I think something that we found very valuable is that the program directors, project directors are main contacts there, they're all past entrepreneurs. They all get it, you know, they all see the bureaucracy, but they all try to help in every single way that they can. And NSF, I think, made a point to do that. You know, they call themselves America's Seed Fund. They're really focused on startups and entrepreneurs. And so that staff at least reflects that, and I think that's a great experience so far. That maybe can be replicated. I don't know if the DOE does that, but I think it's a great thing to do.
I know, Dan, any thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, I think the SBIR program is tremendously important. You know, not only is it a wonderful thing for American business going forward, I mean, the value it creates is, you know, pays back many-fold from what I understand. But also from the perspective of the entrepreneurs, right? I mean, you know, it is really difficult, particularly from the financial side of things. You know, you ideally want to get yourself to a point where, you know, ideally you don't have to do your day job and you can focus on your startup company full time. You know, that's not just important from a point of view of having time to work on your startup, but also, you know, IP ownership, right? I mean, most American work contracts mean that who your employer is will own any IP invented, right? So it doesn't really work out so well if you have to do a day job. So it is important to get free of that. And SBIRs, I think, are pretty much the only vehicle to do this in the very earliest stages, right? You know, pitch programs like today, $50,000 or so, that's great. That will cover expenses to like go to a conference and so on. It won't pay living wage for a team of 2 or 3 people, though. SBIRs, you can get like 200,000-300,000 in phase 1. That's really critical. So we're going to be applying for NSF. I hope we'll be applying for DOE also, potentially DOA as well. Just one other thing, you know. So I realize we've got a high-level audience here. So I used to work for Fraunhofer in Germany, Contract R&D Center, for a number of years. Fraunhofer was set up by the US government, actually, after World War II. They've got a great model, I think. Basically, the model is that the German government gives money to German industry, both large companies and small companies, and then they get to spend this money in Fraunhofer centers, which is kind of like the equivalent of national labs over here. And I think it's a fantastic model. It's worked really well, and I think there's lessons which can be learned from that.
Well, thanks for that. I want to come back to kind of Edson. You guys are kind of a year out. You've kind of secured, you know, NSFS, TTR. You've secured your first private capital. You also have your first letter of intent from a possible customer. Talk to us about kind of your journey, kind of post studio, trying to identify, you know, that beachhead, get that first customer. Talk to us kind of a little bit about that process.
Yeah, it's kind of just scoping out every single person that we can talk to, whether it's from customers, whether it's from funding agencies, past entrepreneurs, accelerators. You know, I think that was maybe thinking about it chronologically. We, towards the end of, you know, around this time last year, I guess, towards the end of the program, you start getting some insight about what the solicitations are from the different departments, right, for SBIRs, ATRs. So we decided to apply for these grants. And then we're all hands on deck and filling out the right gaps in our team and our capabilities and things like that to put together these grants through February. After that, we're like, okay, what do we do now? So we would talk to customers, but I think we really, I would really like to emphasize the help that we got from all the different programs that are geared to startups. We applied to a bunch of different incubators, accelerators, and we're able to tap into those networks and get the credibility from those institutions whether it was institutions like UC Berkeley or other reputable accelerators I can talk about with folks one-on-one. They're just tapping into those networks. It's kind of like the DOE Boost network, but we multiplied that by 10, and so that made it that really created some validation for us and insights, and we were able to refine our pitch decks and do all these different things and meet investors and talk to dozens of venture capital investors well before we were ready to, but learned the hard way all the things that we needed to improve on to then eventually get the venture capital check, right? And in the meantime, got angels, and some of the mentors from other programs became our angel investors and introduced us to other angel investors. So really the power of network, I think, is something to emphasize.
I know, Dan, you guys just more recently came out of your studio, what about, 2 months ago, give or take? So what is kind of on the horizon for Loop Chemicals now? What does the next 6 to 12 months look like from the tech maturation perspective, as well as where you guys are thinking about taking the business?
Okay, so several things. It's quite exciting right now. It's a little bit difficult to figure out exactly where to start with that. But first of all, we're dealing with an early stage technology. It's TRL3 coming out of Sandia. It means there's a lot of risk. Basically, let's just give a brief summary of our technology. We're making ammonia, right? So ammonia has been made for decades by what's called the Haber-Bosch process. It's a great process. It works really well. It's very low cost. The problem is, it's only economic at huge size, right? So the new technology for Sandia, it means it downsizes very economically. So you can imagine, you can manufacture ammonia now where it's used. It's used on farms as fertilizers, right? And you can actually manufacture in these small sites in the US Corn Belt, and you can supply farms in a 50-mile radius. Okay, so sounds great. Now there are some technology risks. It's early stage, right? One of the key things is we do need to speed up the kinetics of the reaction. So we've got some ideas on how to do this. Sandia's working on the new materials. We're actually working on the reaction process itself. We've got some ideas here. We're going to be pursuing these going forward. I mentioned that the thing there about US employers and IP ownership and stuff. Fortunately for two of us, at least, in Loop Chemicals, that won't be a problem. We're moving on from our day jobs. So, we are going to be filing some patent applications in coming weeks, which will be great. So anyway, that's the technology side of things. The aim is by the end of the year, it will no longer be TRL3, it will be TRL5. Okay, so that's the technology. Funding-wise, we're not as far ahead as you guys. Congratulations on the fundraising round.
Yes, significant.
So we ourselves, we won $50,000 coming out of our program in Massachusetts in a grant. So that's very welcome. As I say, it won't pay our wages, though. We've been applying for other grants, basically. We will be applying for SBIRs as well. We have started a conversation with prospective investors. I actually worked in VC myself for some 8 years, so I'm very well connected there. Perhaps a little bit unlike you, actually. I've kind of been holding off reaching out. I wanted to make sure we had a really strong value proposition and we had things completely figured out. So, we're only starting on that process right now, really. The customer thing, however, has gone really well. So there's, I guess one of my old contacts I've known for many years. He's a farmer in North Dakota. He uses a lot of ammonia on his crops. He has 8,000 acres, so this is a relatively large farm. He also is a businessman. He invests in startups. He's actually been in the bioethanol business in the past. So, we've got a great conversation going with him. He's worked on a related concept before, and, potentially he'll be an investor and our first customer. So that's a very exciting relationship we're fostering right now.
Edson, I guess, what is that funding going to propel you guys into? Kind of what's the next 6 to 12 months look like for you guys on the tech side? And what TRL are you guys at when you started, and kind of where are you guys right now?
So we're TRL4, and we're just now starting our work on the NSF STTR grant, which would propel our TRL further. When it comes to our milestones now with our funding, now when clocks started when we got our NSF STTR, but now definitely when we got our VC check, right? And so Really, our first milestones are, one, do the tech transfer, start making magnetics in our own lab. So we're setting that up right now. Make those samples in a consistent basis, get the right data that our customers need, and then send our customers the right data, send them samples. Whenever we do talk to customers, they say, can you send the samples? We want to test it in our system. So now we're getting ready to do that. So we're looking to do that Q1 of next year. And then since our magnetics can be applicable to so many different industries, we have some key ones, like I mentioned, data centers, right, solar inverters, electric motors, and a couple others. We'd send samples to those key customers and then see where the highest potential for growth there might be, whether it's a combination of market, customer desire, performance, and all these different things. And then start building our capacity for larger scale manufacturing for those, beachhead customers, beachhead within the beachhead customers that are like proven customers that would be able to buy large orders, but can also let us segue into all these other markets. So it's trying to find the sweet spot there. And so that's what we're going to do over the next 6 months, really, as we get ready for a seed round fundraise towards the middle of next year, when we have all those things identified and we can put our manufacturing and scale-up plan together.
Well, for both of you, we have about 100 people here, another 100 or so online. What is kind of the biggest need that you guys have right now? What are those network connections or talent, that you're looking for? What are the biggest needs that you guys have right now that we can kind of put out to the network?
I guess myself, I'd say a couple of things. So, I mean, the obvious one, which every startup company says is money, right? So, we are applying for funding from different sources. So, obviously, that's an important one. I think the other one, as I mentioned, so we do have an experienced team, right? So, when it comes to agriculture, when it comes to chemical manufacturing, we've already got I consider really a first-class team. We are looking at new applications, though, right? So ammonia is got great potential, so we hear, as a long-duration energy storage for data centers. This, however, is something we don't know very much about. We don't have very much expertise here within the team. We've read a couple of papers, but yeah, I would welcome conversations, expertise, people who know something about this.
What about you, Edson?
Yeah, I think first of all, maybe folks can check out our progress and see our updated needs in our website and our newsletter. It's just parawatt.com. You can sign up for our newsletter there. And I think in the near term, we're really looking for the right technical talent to implement all the different things. So that's folks that have experience in power electronics or magnetics, with the right physics background typically, or material science background. Some chemical engineers as well, because we'll deal with some chemistry there, some polymers. So if any of these rings any bells for folks, let us know. Our contact information is on our website. And also, I think always introductions to potential customers in these industries, like folks that deal with either magnetics or power electronics in all these industries, I think are always welcome. And any folks interested in talking about potential investment in the future, would always welcome that.
Great. I saw some checks go by. I don't know if we're almost ready, Emmanuel. Oh, all right. Well, then maybe we'll wrap it up shortly. Maybe you can kind of give some parting words of wisdom now that you're on the other side to the entrepreneurs that were part of this cohort.
I guess one thing which I've learned fairly recently is, so grants are critically important, as I said, SBIR especially, but there's several other smaller grant opportunities out there, and, I definitely recommend the team goes to them. Now, what I've learned is, it's like buses. They kind of all come at once, and then there's none for ages, right? So, you need to be ready, There seemed to be a big rush for grant applications. It was around about September, October time, right? And there were so many in that time frame, and that was a bit of a drought. So, be ready for it. When they come around next year, make sure you're ready and get in as many as you can.
Yeah, to that I would add, I think things will kind of come in batches just about everything, right? Like in silence, and all of a sudden all these things come at you at the same time, and everything is 10 times more complicated than you expect it to be. So having people in similar positions as you that you can just text at any moment and ask stupid questions or any questions is super valuable. You know, you just have to make so many decisions so quickly. And I think building that in every network that you engage with, like this one to begin with, but all the ones in the future, would definitely recommend doing that, you know, getting to those texting relationships.
Well, thank you both for coming back to where it all began with the Sandia tech and the inventors. So we're going to put all the entrepreneurs out of your misery. You're going to find out here the winners very shortly. But a huge round of applause. Thank you to Edson and Dan for coming back.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. It's fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, I'll take
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, we're ready to announce our 3 winners. And with that, I'd love to introduce Mary Munson back up to tell us who won.
Thank you. Are you getting our props? You're gonna, oh, okay. Oh, okay. Great. Okay, a lot of help tonight. Firstly, I just want to compliment all of the teams on outstanding pitches. Really, really great. And I'm sure it was a tough decision for the judges. I was impressed with every pitch. But we're going to start with our 3rd place winners. And the 3rd place team, Clever Glass. There's your check. Congratulations. And now for our 2nd place team, Field Sim. Awesome. Congratulations. So great. They're going to take a picture. Thank you. And now, 1st place. The 1st place team tonight. You wrote it weirdly. Hydrogenics. Great job. Yeah, congratulations.
That's our showcase. Thank you for everyone. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. This concludes our program. Yep. Please take some time to meet with our founders, our partners, and the broader community. We're going to do some pictures in the back with our winning teams as well as the entire cohort. Thank you.